Hello again. Now, what you see in front of you is a website that I've decided to, browse online. And we'll be using the layouts and, we'll be gathering some inspiration from this website to create our own in the future when we're done learning a little bit of CSS. Now, what you see here is a website that has been professionally made. It has been using a lot of other libraries and frameworks. It does not use only HTML and CSS. It uses frameworks like jQuery. It also uses JavaScript and a lot of others. So when we're learning HTML and CSS together, we'll try to replicate some of this, but we'll not exactly get everything right because with doing so with CSS can be quite daunting. So we'll just do the best we can with CSS and try to replicate something that looks exactly like this. Well, not exactly, but at least the layout of it. Of course, just to show you something, if we view the page source of this page, you can see the amount of code that we have here. All these classes, the div class, the modals, and everything else. So you can see the code has been used to design a website like that. So it is a lot of work, to be honest, but it is quite easy work. That is a good thing about it. It is easy work. So we can just, do something that is quite similar and try not to make our code as messy as this one is, but you get the idea. And yeah, that's it. So that is what we're going to be doing, but we'll not get straight to it right away. So first, let's get the basics down. CSS is quite a very bulky topic, so it is good to learn from the fundamentals and what we will need such that we'll understand how code like this really work, how this thing really works. We need to learn CSS properly such that when you look at something like this, you'll be able to understand everything that you see here. So now what I did was, for the previous lessons that we did, I put in a folder called session 1. As you can see here, this is the forms that we designed last time and the index page that I decided that we use when we were practicing CSS. So for the HTML part of it, we'll be using this index page here to have something that would look like this on the content side of things, not on the design, because CSS is mostly on the design, HTML is for the content itself. So we'll use this for the contents and we'll create something called an external style sheet and link it to this page, which will then produce the design that we are after. But for now, we'll learn the basics before we go on to all of this. So the previous lessons are found in this session 1 folder, and we can review them at any time if we need to find out something. But for now, I'll just leave it there. So, CSS, what is it all about? CSS is cascading style sheets. What does that mean? That is, it is used to provide the styling to your sheet, and the sheet can be designed using HTML, and then you give some styling to it. The style is to give it a proper look, to make it look a little bit attractive. We realize that when we design our websites with only HTML, they look plain. The content was correct, the content was shown to the user as was expected, but it was never really attractive. It was really it's not really inspired the user. All it did was it showed the user the content that the user wanted to see, but it was really attractive. It did not have that allure. So what CSS will come to do is to give that allure to your websites, to your web pages. It makes them very beautiful to look at. And most of the work that will be done here will be basic CSS, because for the advanced CSS, most people prefer using the frameworks, because using the basic CSS will be quite complicated to do so. But of course, we'll learn as much as we can, such that when you view any page, you'll be able to understand what is really going on. So for now, I would like us to introduce CSS, and I would like us to use the internal styling. Internal styling means we'll be using the styling found in the header tag, in the head element. Basically, there are three types of styling, but for this time, we'll use just one. The three kinds are: you have inline styling, you have internal styling, of course, you have the external one. But this time, we'll use the internal styling just to introduce that. So, how do we style this page? How do you start to give some certain amount of beauty to it? For every style that you want to apply to a page, you have to put them within an element. It is HTML after all, and everything in HTML you do with an element. So, given that the CSS that we want to apply to this page is internal, that is, it is attached to this HTML itself, we have to use the element that is appropriate for it. And that element is style. Just like everything else, it's quite simple to remember because it is what it really is. Now, how does CSS really work? How do we apply styles to this page after we've defined this element? Oh, sorry, I was trying to use the comment for HTML within the style elements. Now, how do we comment in CSS is this. So, the other way will not work, but this block element commenting will work. So, before I get any further sidetrack, what I was about to say was, how do we style a page using CSS? Once we've established this element, we have to do something called a selector. And when we're done selecting that element, we have to provide to it an attribute. We select it and we give it a value. And this area here is called a declaration. So the area we find here is called a declaration. Now we select, we have an attribute, and we give it a value. And this area is called a declaration, and this is a selector. That's basically what CSS is all about. That is all you need to know. You just have to select some elements and you apply some styling to the attributes. For example, a very simple one here will be, I will select the body element of this page. So when I come here and I say body, and I open this, my curly brackets, the body is currently been selected. As you can see here, the selector specificity is 001. It means we've selected one element from this. Alright. Now once that body has been selected, what is the attribute we wish to change? For this time, all I wish to change will be the background of this page. So if I say background, and let's just add color to it because this background color that we want to change. And Visual Studio Code automatically brings up a bunch of colors for us to choose from. I'll choose the color, and I'll save this page. And I'll review this in the Explorer, and then open it up and see what happens. Now, as you can see, the background color of this page is unlike the ones that we've been using before. The background color here is Core, and that is because it has been styled using this certain amount of code here, this bit of code. So that is how we apply styling to a page. We put them within the style elements if it is an internal styling, of course, and then all we need to do is select the element we wish to style and the attribute, and then give it the value. That is just it. That is the basics of CSS. All you'll be doing is selecting elements and giving some style to them. Now the challenge here is knowing what style and how to properly use the style. So that is what we will need to familiarize ourselves with when we're learning CSS. How the styles that we want to use in a particular situation and how to use them, and what they really mean, what they imply. Now the good thing is there are a lot of styles out there, quite a lot of them. But the bad thing is we cannot learn all of them because there are quite a lot of them. So we'll have to learn the ones that are very, very important, and we'll have to learn the ones that can be found in almost every website that you'll be browsing online. Now we cannot learn everything, but I would like you to put in the effort as well to do some research. When we encounter a situation and you feel like there is something you can do to improve on how the style will look like, to improve on the beauty of the page, I would like you to do some research. Maybe use W3 schools and try to apply that style yourself. It is by your own practice that you'll be able to keep these things in mind. We cannot learn CSS all of it. It's impossible to do so. So basically that's what CSS is all about, and we'll be learning more about it in the next lesson, including the internal styling, the inline styling, and of course the external styling, which is the most important, and also some basic things that we need to know with regards to CSS. Until then, see you in the next lesson.